Hey you guys, got a few Battleground fights here. Two with HotOne from yesterday, and then I also just fought Ray, and so I decided to put them all together. So I have two fights against Rae7, and so that was very nice. I'm glad to see HotOne last night because I was in a Battleground with him before, and I got into the recording so late that I just wiped the footage, and it didn't seem really worth it. But the first time that we had fought in Battleground and had multiple fights, I fought him once with a Dark Sylph and really was struggling because he has so much physical defense, and so it's very difficult for me with just a Hecate and not an Odin, which would attack the magical defense, to be able to deal a lot of damage to someone like that. And so then I switched over to an Electro Sylph and I won that fight. And in this case, I just end up using a Dark Sylph, but I do have a couple pots on right now. That wasn't intentional. Usually I would take the pots off. If I'm fighting a top player, I usually like to have everything even, no dryads, no pots or anything, just to see how it goes. But I completely forgot about it. I was in crossover GB before this Battleground, and so I decided maybe I should pot in that, and so I did. So I have a couple pots. I have one magical attack scroll, magical attack T, and then an intel pot. So my magical attack is doing very well here, and so I'm able to deal with his huge physical defense a little bit better. I am dealing more damage in the Dark Sylph mode right now than I did previously. A huge help is also the fact that I had got so much magical attack from the Holy Forge event. I did really make out quite well there, so I feel in pretty good shape lately. Dealing quite a bit. He is able to get a shield on it in time though, and then I think a heal rune, yep. I think HotOne's gameplay itself is actually pretty good. Seems to have a relatively good working knowledge of double hits and when to time runes and things like that. I fought him a couple of times, and it always seems like the runes are timed well. I think the first time I fought him was really frustrating with the chaos rune timing, and so I was pretty careful about that in this first fight. Later on, he switches to an amnesia. But the one thing that I don't like about HotOne's setup is the fact that he continues to have 3 Delphics on his Odin, and I think that's just too much. See there, he wasn't able to get that last Delphic out, and that's because he had already used 2 before then, and so it's just out of awakening points. And I think when it comes to Sylphs, you really do have to pick. Just because there are 3 options for Delphics doesn't mean you should use all of them. And I think that's a precautionary tale. I think even 2 Delphics can sometimes be a little unwieldy. So that's definitely something to think about. The polar opposite of that type of thinking, of having a lot of Delphics and high power skills, is the person I fight after HotOne, which is Ray, and Ray much favors some swift attacks in Sylph mode, and having a Sylph where it's, you have a lot of freedom and a lot of high power, very fast skills, things that you can double hit very easily. Ray really values those types of things. If you're a player that doesn't value Sylph mode as much, which I think is a little unimaginable, then you can start thinking about just going for high power Sylph attacks. But yeah, so I actually got an edge there. Really, the way things timed out with the Sylph modes were really in my favor. I don't do as much of a I just don't do as good of a job with that type of stuff in this fight. And yeah, there I'm saying, oh, an amnesia rune. I don't think I've seen that one from HotOne before. I'm pretty used to having the chaos rune, which is pretty difficult to deal with the heals and a chaos rune when the timing is good. But I think amnesia overall is actually maybe the more consistently annoying rune, whereas chaos sometimes it's a little bit hit or miss. here gets the healing Delphic out. When Panda is alive, that healing Delphic is not bad because it hits multiple targets. But actually, the healing Delphic for Odin is only better than Devour Soul if it hits multiple targets. So for me, if you're gonna get rid of one of the Delphics, it's that one. Maybe for a knight, it's a little bit more difficult to give up that heal because they don't have other ways to heal very easily. But at least for a mage, I think that's the obvious choice to get rid of. There, I get a nice little illusion. Now I have some freedom in Sylph mode to deal quite a bit of damage. And of course, he gets a stun. So that's a very nice stun. It lets him catch up on awakening points. I don't get as much time to just blow up big time damage. The whole point of waiting out his Sylph mode is so that I can deal more damage with Hecate when he doesn't have all the damage reduction passives from Odin. Yeah, so I'm hitting pretty hard, but not amazing, and that really has to do with HotOne's physical defense. You know, I don't think it's an overall great choice to have so much physical defense over magical defense, but at least against me it's working quite well. I think against other Odin players, you know, anybody else with a merge Sylph, HotOne probably does not fare that well. Just because his magical defense is so much lower. Here, letting my HP drop quite a bit. Sort of risky. Oh, HotOne's got this like blue glow around her, or him. So now not as in good of shape, you know, I'm gonna get into Sylph mode soon, but it would have been nicer had HotOne had less awakening points when I did that. So not totally great planning on my part. Some deflect damage there. And deflects definitely come into play in this fight. Getting into, oh actually we're well into the 150% bonus. So damage is high, so that means the deflects can be very big. Need to get my heal rune. And it's that much, but 340k crit from a Devour Soul is quite big. And so here comes the big Delphic. This is going to deal a lot of damage. Boom. So 882k crit, I deflect for a ton of damage, I think like 500k, back to HotOne, and so yeah, I ended up losing that fight. You know, usually when somebody is, you know, deals damage and then it gets deflected back to them, they end up losing the fight. So it was interesting that I ended up getting the failure on that one, but something happened where it ended up being my loss, and that's fine. Really, HotOne was doing a better job there, and so he really deserved the win. So they're just showing that I do have pots on. So this is my potted BR. Later on, after the fights with Rae, you can see my stats when they're not as potted or buffed up, and so my HP is not buffed up, and actually a bit better than HotOne's, and definitely, of course, the attack power. My magical attack is close to 400k with this T and Intel pod on, and HotOne's is under 320k. That's actually sort of surprising to me. Definitely a place for him to grow is that attack stat, and then the big place where HotOne is doing great is on defenses. Definitely that physical defense is quite scary. But yeah, otherwise I think actually I'm at a small stat advantage even without the pots considered. But of course, HotOne has a big Sylph advantage. So here, getting into things with Rae bringing the Wind Sylph. You know, I would say of course, but and it of course is the Sylph that has for a long time been associated with Rae. But Rae does have a merge Sylph. She does have Frigga, and she chooses not to use Frigga. So Rae has really become one of my favorite people to just drop a hello and talk about the game a little bit whenever I get a chance to see her in BG. I think she has an interesting perspective on what she likes to play and how she likes to PvP, which is a little bit different than I think the average player. She really values usability, swiftness, and how quick a Sylph is, and so those things are she really likes about Wind Sylphs, and using Frigga really slows her down. She's not able to double hit as much. Here, of course, she's using that 1 second skill on the Wind Sylph, even though I have a nice stun on her that really helps me get the advantage in this fight. But she likes to double hit. She likes quick skills, and so that's very difficult to pull off with Frigga. I think there are ways to set up a Frigga as a PvP Sylph, but they're not, you know, what most players would choose to do with a Frigga. So yeah, so she continues to use the Wind Sylph. I was talking to her. I said, you know, oh, I think things are evening out a little bit or I'm doing better because my magical attack is much higher or catching up to hers. So there I get the advantage. She was also saying that part of the problem is that she doesn't have Aquilon's Blessing anymore on her Goddess of Prosperity. She took Aquilon's Blessing, which is a Delphic skill that reduces damage for 40% for I think 2 or 3 turns, and that really helps reduce the damage that she takes when she's using her Wind Sylph. She got rid of that skill because she had the Frigga support from her troops in Class Wars, but in a situation where she doesn't have that support from Frigga, I think it's a little harder for her to survive. So that's a little bit to my advantage, obviously, because Heke is a much better tanking Sylph as far as just damage reduction and things like that. But I do think that my extra magical attack is really helping me here. For sure, Rae is, I wouldn't say a kindred spirit to me. That's not accurate. I don't think we're totally similar. I think she pushes the mounts slightly a little bit more than I do. Sure, her mount BR is still really fantastic, whereas mine has been falling behind. But I think as far as the merge Sylphs go and things, you know, I value similar things to Rae as far as the Sylphs go. Obviously, you know, I did have a period where I used a Wind Sylph as well quite a bit. But I do like using Dark Sylph so much more than Rae. But yeah, I think for me, I like having swift attacks in Sylph mode, and being able to double hit and all of those things. So I think the thing I'm most wary of for the merge Sylphs is not having a 1 second cooldown skill also. And so yeah, I think Electro and Fire might be the best, just because it's probably going to be the easiest to use without a 1 second cooldown skill. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm a little bit worried. That conversation arose with Rae later after this fight, actually, because I asked her if she was going to go for Thor or Tyr, the Electro and Fire merge Sylph once it comes out, and I think she's a little bit iffy about it. Just because I think anybody would be if they, you know, she didn't really end up liking Frigga for a main Sylph. So, you know, committing money into a Sylph that you don't use regularly, I think is sort of tough. You know, personally, I don't really want to invest in Wind Water if it's going to cost me a lot, because, you know, how often am I going to use that Sylph each month? Maybe once or twice, basically. So here I get another advantage over her. So the extra little bit of survivability in my Dark Sylph really helping me there. But it's always fun to fight Rae. Really good player, and I've just seen her around for so long that I can't help but like to fight her. It never gets old, and so we've been here for a long time together. And so go check out her stats. It's a little bit inaccurate from rankings for Rae because she always has her Electro Sylph on for rankings. I think it's to push her out of the top 16 probably. I think she would be top 16 if she had her Wind Sylph on. For sure with my Hecate I'm in the top 16, so I think for sure she would as well. So her magical attack really huge because she has the Electro Sylph on, but otherwise, my defense is behind hers, but that's mostly because she doesn't have as much block. She didn't commit to the block build quite as much as I did, which I think is more balanced, but I am very curious about using all this block and HP, so I'm going to stick that out for a while. But otherwise, catching up to Rae, which I'm feeling good about, and she's looking pretty good as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to get lots more fights very soon. Take care, you guys, and have a very good day.